Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I'm back with another Shadow Talk. This is episode 152. And today I'm going to be talking about my campaign because this is my channel and I can do what I want. And I'm going to talk about my campaign, even though you probably give no shits about that. But still, like I said, it is my channel. So here we go. We're talking about my campaign. But first, we will be talking about some new Shadow Schwalb goodness. And what do we have here? We only have one thing that's been released this week, and that is Guardians of the Cosmic Egg. So this is Shadow the Demon Lord. And let's just see what it is here. Naga Rising, a new threat in Shadow the Demon Lord. The Nagas, a serpentine race from another world, have found themselves stranded on Earth, a planet already teeming with diverse and often conflicting peoples. Once believing they had discovered a new and empty world, the Nagas now face the challenges of a crowded and dangerous land. This new book, Guardians of the Cosmic Egg, expands upon the Nagas introduced in Demon Lord Companion 2, providing players and game masters with the tools to create compelling and unique Naga characters and adventures. Whether you're a GM seeking to incorporate Nagas into your campaign or a player looking to try something new and weird, this book has everything you need. Okay, so this is what I love about Schwalb Entertainment. Shadow the Demon Lord is almost 10 years old. It's almost as old as D&D 5th edition. And Robert Schwalb has put out, since Shadow the Demon Lord's been released, he has put out Godless, which is a post-apocalyptic game, in the same vein as whatchamacallit, Road Warrior. And he's also put out Punk Apocalyptic, based off of the miniatures tabletop game. Also post-apocalyptic. And then he has put out now Shadow the Weird Wizard. And yet he is still producing content for his baby, which is Shadow of the Demon Lord. And from what I understand, he's going to continue to put out content for it. And that is great because Shadow of the Demon Lord is an awesome game. I have run many campaigns in it, and I plan to run many more because I have a huge mega campaign that I am trying to stretch out as long as I possibly can. But at any rate, this is another offering for Shadow of the Demon Lord. So if you are a fan of Shadow of the Demon Lord, this is something you should probably pick up. Don't know how much it is on DriveThruRPG. Just go out there and check it out. It's probably less than $5. Okay, so that's it as far as new stuff is concerned, which means that it is time to jump into my campaign. That's right, I have a campaign for Shadow the Weird Wizard, and it has only just begun. We have played 4 sessions, not including the session 0. And in those 4 sessions, we have completed the first quest. So the level 1 novice tier quest has concluded. And so I thought I'd take a moment to give you the story thus far. So the adventure is loosely based off of this quest, One Bad Apple. And I say it's loosely based because I have an overarching campaign storyline that I am plotting out, and I am finding adventures or creating adventures as needed in order to make that story unfold. But the overarching storyline is what's going to be guiding the campaign. The individual adventures are going to be retrofitted into that overarching storyline, and that's what I did with One Bad Apple. Now, what did I keep in One Bad Apple? Pretty much most of the NPCs. I kept the town. Two Forks, and I kept um, the bad guys. Well, partially. The part of the bad guys, and this is going to have spoilers for those of you that care about spoilers. So if you don't want to, be spoiled or any shit like that, then you might want to check out at this point. But um, so they're, the bad guys in the adventure here are, um, some goblins, which I kept. I kept the goblins. I kept the ruins that the goblins are hanging out in. Basically, everything else I changed, and that is again just to well, actually, there's several reasons for it. The bad guys in One Bad Apple include a Bao-Chan. I don't even know if that is how you pronounce it. Salty Lemon, the Bao-Chan. And I really didn't see how adding the Bao-Chan would further my plot. The goblins were sufficient for that purpose, so I basically got rid of the Bao-Chan. And the villains that are in the tomb of the tomb itself, I got rid of, and I also got rid of um, the ancient one, or I swapped out the ancient one that this tomb was dedicated to, which is an ancient one. What's his name? Shagnagrath. Shagnagrath, the ancient one with all the eyeballs. I got rid of that and replaced it with something different that goes along with my storyline. And I'm not going to spoil that because I know that at least one of my players watches these videos. So I'm not going to give him an unfair advantage. But maybe you guys can figure it out as we go along. But at any rate, some of the bad guys that were originally in this module included some undead. Now, I wanted to hold off on undead and introduce those later in the campaign. I have a specific adventure that I want to do that in. So I replaced the undead that were in this adventure with some cultists. Because you can't go wrong with cultists, right? And the cultists that I replace them with go along with the overarching storyline that I have going here. So the tomb had cultists in it, and then the ruins above had the goblins, and then the story where the villagers were being exposed to the soul sickness, that remained as well. So those are the things I kept and the things that I changed, and so that's how those are the modifications I made. Okay, so how did I get this thing rolling? Well, that begins with our player characters. So just taking a look at our player characters, we have Gosetsu or Gosetsu, who is one of my players wanted to have a wizard that was modeled off of the guy from Big Trouble in Little China, the Kurt Russell movie from the 80s. And he wanted a wizard that was modeled off of the lightning guy with the big hat. Don't know if that guy had a name, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about because he was cool as fuck. So he wanted to model a guy after him. He wanted him to be Asian, and so I was like, okay, well, we don't know much about Earth. We don't know much about what lies beyond the borderlands. So who's to say that there's not a place that has a culture that is similar to the our Asian cultures? And so I said, yeah, why not? But we're going to have to figure out how your character that obviously comes from a different place, a different continent, ends up in the borderlands. And so we left it kind of vague. Basically, Gosetsu was in his homeland serving a serving a lord, and he was training to be a war wizard basically. And in the middle of a war, and then all of a sudden he found himself um, transported to the borderlands, where he ends up in the middle of a battlefield and amongst a bunch of dead people. But he finds amongst these dead people, he finds a golden mask, or a wooden mask, I should say, with a gold leaf on the exterior. And it is a monstrous mask. It has a single horn jutting out from the forehead. And so that is that's a clue that he picked up. So from there, he runs into and this is all session zero stuff. So from there, he runs into another member of the party, or that will be the party, and that is Ox, Operational Exterminator number 237. So Ox is a clockwork that was in the employ of the Weird Wizard. Weird Wizard obviously created all the clockworks in this world, and so he was part of the Weird Wizard's armed forces, and so he was out doing the things that warriors do, and he had done a lot of bad things to a lot of people. And so once the Weird Wizard left, he started questioning his motives and his purpose for life. And he decided that being a warrior just for the sake of killing and destroying was not the way that he wanted to continue his existence. And so he had a list of the people that he had wronged, and he is now actively looking for these people to try to make amends. Now, Ox somehow managed to wind himself down, probably because he can't seem to grind the gears without winding down. Every time he has done grind the gears, he has wound down. So his ability to grind the gears and come out of it unscathed has yet to be perfected. But at any rate, he was frozen in the field basically until Gosetsu ran across him. Gosetsu wound him back up, and those two traveled together for a time. Eventually made it to the town of Two Forks. And from there, they, basically made it their home for the time being until they decided what they were going to do. Then we have Nudax. Nudax is a woodwose that comes from the Sentinel Wood. And the Nudax was basically a student of the grandfather tree, and his elder decided to send him out in the world so that Nudax can learn about the wider world beyond the Sentinel Wood. On his way out, Nudax ran across a couple of NPCs that I created for this campaign. Quincy, who is a anthropomorphic cat that comes from the Forbidden City. And Quincy also had a companion, a clockwork companion, that was very, very old, and his name was Jahan Dre. And Jahan Dre was actually a John Deere tractor that the Weird Wizard had brought with him from one of his many travels and sent out into the world to do tractor things. Quincy and Jahan Dre kind of ended up together and ended up in Two Forks. Two Forks has a palisade around the town, or the village, and made of wood, made of logs, and one of the logs needed replacing. So Quincy and Jahan Dre had gone into the Sentinel Wood to get a tree. And so Nudax found the chopped down tree, followed the trail, and ended up meeting Quincy and Jahan Dre, who took him back to Two Forks. And so that brings Nudax into Two Forks along with Ox and Gosetsu. Now, our fourth and final party member is Anselm, who is a youngster who came from the old country, and was living in Two Forks when the other folks arrived. Now, Anselm is a bit of a mysterious character. The background for Anselm has yet to be really fleshed out. We do know he comes from the old country, and we do know that he has some rogue-like tendencies. And so there's probably some stories going on there that we're not familiar with, but he is a youth. So he is, the fourth party member. And of course, Quincy and Jehan Dre are NPCs. They're not actually party members. I don't do I don't like doing the DM, DMPC. So I keep Quincy along, or I created Quincy for purposes of introducing new decks to Two Forks, but I also made Quincy an engineer. That was his job back in the Forbidden City. And so I figured that Quincy could help Ox repair himself, since Ox can't repair himself at first level due to the fact that Clockworks can't repair themselves until they're second level for some reason. Which means that if you're running a Clockwork character, you really need to be careful in that first quest. Because if you get injured, or if you get damaged, then there are very few ways for you to be able to be repaired. So that's another reason why Quincy kind of tags along with the team, but he's definitely not an active adventurer. Okay, so let's get rid of Quincy here. So those are our heroes. These are the guys that are going to be the movers and shakers of this campaign. All right, so they are all in Two Forks. And like I said, I used the NPCs in Two Forks. And one of the NPCs that I kicked the campaign off with is the brewer, Dirk. Yeah, I forget Dirk's last name. Dirk Durkinson. And Dirk Durkinson is the proprietor of the Two Forks Distillery and Public House. So Dirk Durkinson has a successful business. He's a bit of a woman's man, and he is trying to hook up with another NPC, Megan Salson. Now, Megan Salson has an on-again, off-again fling with another NPC, Victor the Smith. Victor the Smith is the blacksmith of of Two Forks, and he's the guy that everybody in town likes. He's got a great personality, great sense of humor. He does a lot of work for a lot of folks in town. He's fair. The only thing with Victor the Smith is he's got a pretty short temper. Which is why he has an on-again, off-again relationship with Megan. So Dirk Durkinson tries to swoop in and pick up the pieces whenever they break up, but Megan still, her heart belongs to Victor the Smith. So Dirk Durkinson, he occasionally makes trips to Four Towers and to other settlements. And so here's where I place Two Forks in the Borderlands, way down here, kind of towards the middle part of the Borderlands. And as you can see, Four Towers is probably the closest large settlement, the closest city to Two Forks. And so he makes about once a year he travels there to sell his wares and also to pick up some new ideas and bring them back to Two Forks to try them out in his distillery. And so he was in the process of making one of those trips. On his return trip back to Two Forks, he was intercepted by a group of goblins. The goblins took them back to the ruins where they make their headquarters, and they were going to sacrifice Dirk Durkinson to a dark god in the tomb below the ruins. Now, the goblins were being coerced into doing this by the cult that came here to, for whatever purposes. This cult revered the dark god that the tomb below was dedicated to. And so when the cultists arrived, they basically forced these goblins to do their bidding, and they needed sacrifices to appease this dark god. So the goblins have been forced to go out and grab people and bring them back to their headquarters and then give them over to these cultists. So Dirk Dirkensen was going to be given over to the cultists, but Dirk Dirkensen is a smooth talker, so he managed to talk his way out of being sacrificed if he would take a cursed object to his village and place it in a centralized location that would expose the villagers to the cursed object. Now, Dirk Dirkensen was, desperate to save his life, so he agreed to this, and so he took this black stone that was cursed, and he was going to place it in the church where pretty much everybody in Two Forks goes to at some point. And so that would expose everybody to this cursed object. Now, he didn't know what this cursed object did. He just knew it was something. He didn't even know it was cursed necessarily. He kind of had an inkling that it might be cursed because they told him, not to touch it with his flesh, and that it needs to be put in a place where most people in his village would be exposed to it. And so he was going to put it in the church. Well, when he gets back to Two Forks, he sees that Megan and Victor the Smith had made amends once again while he was gone, and this really pissed him off. So he decided, instead of putting the cursed stone in the church, he was going to put it in Victor the Smith's forge and expose Victor the Smith to whatever bad things were going to happen from this cursed stone. So that is how the cursed stone got into the forge, which is a bit of a departure from how that occurs in the module as written. Okay, so Dirk Dirkensen was witnessed going into the forge by some town folks, but that never really came up because the PCs found out another way. So the following day, the whole village is awakened by a commotion down by the Smith's shop. And the commotion is basically Victor and Megan having another fight, but this one is physical. And Victor had been slapping Megan around and basically just irrationally, arguing. And he's got a sharp temper, but he's usually, he can be reasoned with. But at this point, he is not being able to be reasoned with because another villager, Ruprecht Olsen, intervened, and Victor was starting to beat up on Ruprecht. So the two guards of the town, who are Pete Saulson and Bill Pettigrew, they come in. They also intervene, and they manage to subdue the blacksmith, Victor. And so this is how, then this commotion is what brings the PCs into it. So the PCs are doing work. One of them's fixing the palisade. A couple of others are doing stuff in town or nearby. And so they all hear this commotion. They all come to investigate, as well as other people in the village, and including the leaders of the village, Elder Miriam Shue. And I also introduced an NPC that's not on the module, which is the Wisdom, which I took from the the Wheel of Time series. So the two leaders in the town, they come, and the PCs come to the commotion. They all help to restrain Victor and lock him in a shed. Now, between Anselm and the leaders of the town, Eldam Miriam Shue and the Wisdom, they recognize the symptoms of soul sickness because they're all from the old country, and the old country had an epidemic of soul sickness, and so they know they know the symptoms, and they know what happens. The wisdom also had a sense that this was an unnatural soul sickness, that was a result of a curse, and she believes that there is a cursed object of some sort that is probably the culprit, and so she bids the PCs to find it. The PCs go through uh, the blacksmith shop, and they manage to find the black stone. Now, the PCs, of course, are all flesh and blood, with the exception of Ox. So Ox manages to fish it out of the forge, and he can handle it because even though he has a soul, he's not made of flesh and blood, so he can't transform into a an orc. And I guess mentally he could. I suppose the curse could work on him mentally, but I decided to make him immune to it. Um, and so he's able to handle the cursed stone. Um, so the PCs, um, with the others, realized that the people that were physically touched by Victor were in danger of transforming into orcs as well. So they all had to be restrained and locked up until the curse could be broken. Now, the elder and the wisdom decided that whoever put the curse on the stone had to be found and had to be made to remove the curse or slain, which would end the curse as well. So the PCs, they asked the PCs to do that. But before they did, they had to find out who put the curse on this. So eventually they discover that Dirk Dirkinson had been spotted, and had been spotted basically sneaking into the blacksmith shop. So they go confront him. It doesn't take much to break him, so he basically breaks down and confesses that yes, he was captured by goblins, and they were going to sacrifice him to some dark god in a hole if he didn't bring the stone back. So he did it to save his life. He didn't mean to cause any strife in town, but he couldn't help it because he was jealous that Victor and Megan had rekindled their relationship. So the PCs learned that of the existence of the ruins and the goblins there, so they were going to go out and rectify the situation. But before they did, um, what's his name? The NPC, Rupert Olson, he made a rapid transformation into an orc. Now, the soul sickness normally takes up to 3 days to transform somebody into an orc, but for whatever reason, he and his family were highly susceptible to the curse, and they rapidly transformed into orcs. They immediately killed the town elder and the town wisdom, and the PCs ran across this when they went to check on them. And so they fought Rupert Olson, who had transformed into orc, and his 4 daughters, who had transformed into orcs. And so that was the first battle of the game. From there, they decided they needed to hurry out to the ruins and try to end the curse before the other exposed town folks transformed. So they made their way out to the ruins, where they found the ruins, but this was a new group, so they weren't really sure how to approach it. They saw a goblin lookout on the outskirts of the ruins, so they're going to try to capture him, but they ended up killing him, which drew a band from the ruins out to get the group. So they ran back out into a wooded area. The goblins pursued, and then they had a fight there. During that fight, a wild boar was also engaged in the fight. They killed everything. The PCs killed everything except for one goblin. They started interrogating the goblin, who they named Meep. Now, Meep basically told the group that the goblins were being forced to do the bidding of these cultists, which he called gold faces, and that the the gold faces were being led by the master, who is inside a hole that is in the ruins that the goblins are in. So there's a hole that leads to something underground where the master is and the gold faces go. So he tells them that the goblins don't want to work for the master. The goblins want to leave, but the master forces them to do his bidding. And so Meep says that the goblins will gladly let the PCs in if the PCs will, you know, free them from the servitude of the cult. And so the PCs agree. They go up into the ruins, or they sneak into the ruins with the aid of the goblins, and there are two cultists topside guarding the hole. Gosetsu goes in and fries them with a forked bolt that hits them both and easily takes them both out in the first action of the first round. And so the goblins rejoice, and the PCs enter the tomb. So that's when they go into the actual tomb, and let me show you that here. Okay, so the tomb I also modified somewhat in order to well, basically I just wanted to modify it to make it fit more cleanly in Foundry here, but I had the hole emptying into the false treasure room. So they get in the false treasure room. They realize that everything is an illusion, and so then they proceed to go through this door here into this room, which was filling up with goo. So I had before they actually adventured through here, I had this entire room filled with a green gooey liquid that was pouring out of a hole in the far left wall. And so the ox entered the room to try to get to this door, and that's when a creature that was in the goo, a slime creature, attacked him. So they managed to pull Ox back out of the room, or actually Ox manages to pull free from the ooze creature, which was actually, what did I use for this ooze creature? I believe I used, here, I have it in my opponents. So I used a Sinister Jelly to be the creature here. So that's a difficulty 2 creature. And it did a number on Ox. I managed to take him down and engulf him, but Ox managed to wiggle his way out, not weasel his way, wiggle his way out, and they were able to get back into the hallway and close the door. So they get back into this room. They decide to go through the southern door, and down here they enter and they find a group of people that had been captured. So these people indicate that they were all on the road. They were captured by the goblins and brought here and taken into the hole by the cultists and imprisoned. One by one, they've been taken out by the cultists, and the people taken out never return. Now, one of the people that had been captured is an NPC that Ox had done wrong. He had destroyed this NPC's hut. This is one of the people that's on Ox's list to make amends to. And so Ox, basically said he would free him, and then he would do whatever he needed to in order to make amends. This NPC, whose name is Brost, was very suspicious because, Ox was a rampaging war machine when he originally encountered him, so he didn't trust him. But Ox, along with the others, freed the prisoners and allowed them to get back out of the tomb. The NPCs waited topside for the PCs to finish up. So then the PCs come over here. They they find this door that leads to this door down here, but this door had a seal across it that had a curse on it. So they decided not to mess with the curse at this point. They backtracked into this room here to see if there was another, maybe a secret way into that chamber. But then they found that one of these columns had a hidden lever. When they pulled the lever, they came back through here and they found that the goo had drained out of this room, along with the slime creature. And so they decided at that point they would go through this door, which they followed down the stairs and into this room. Now this was the boss fight. The PCs encountered the cultists. There were several cultists in here, a cult priest and a cult leader, using the stats for all the above from the Shadow of the Weird Wizard. And so there was a pretty massive fight. I know Ox had gone down at least once. Nudax went down once, I believe. But ultimately the PCs were able to prevail. And so they, by killing the priest, they also discovered a bunch of other cursed stones in here, and they were, the priest was actively engaged in trying to transform another one of these people into an orcish monster. So whatever was going on down here, the cult priest was trying different variations of the soul sickness for an unknown purpose. And each of these stones had a different variation of the soul sickness. Now the PCs don't know that. They just know that there are additional stones here, and that the person that they were trying to, that the cultists were trying to transform, mutated and died during the process of the transformation. So the PCs basically back out of the tomb, go back up topside, take the villagers back to Two Forks. Gosetsu had the idea that this tomb should probably be sealed, and so he encouraged the villagers to make the trek back to the ruins, use the ruin, all of the material in the ruins to basically choke the hole that led into the ruins, so that the tomb would be sold off and could not be utilized further by other ne'er-do-wells. Now, one of the captives here was a female that wanted to go to Edgewood. The rest of the folks were happy to stay in Two Forks. One of the NPCs that were captured here actually had some brewing experience, so he took over Dirk's brewery, because Dirk was fearful that when the PCs came back that he would be made to account for his crimes against the village of Two Forks. So he decided to take off and start over somewhere else. So the NPC here, and I forget what name I gave him, but that NPC took over the brewery. And then another NPC had been an acolyte to the old gods, and so Brother Clegg had also drunk himself to death while the PCs were gone. Brother Clegg was the new god spiritual leader for Two Forks, and so Nudax, the Woodwoz, who is a priest of the grandfather tree, decided that this would be a good time to introduce the folks of Two Forks to the old faith. And so he trained the acolyte to replace Brother Clegg, and basically repurpose the church of the High One to the church venerating the old faith, particularly grandfather tree. The people of Two Forks were not too fond of Brother Clegg. He was a drunk. He was also a weirdo. They didn't feel like the High One had their backs, given all the trials that they had gone through, and so they were open to hearing about the grandfather tree. And so Nudax set up this NPC, again, whose name eludes me, and to be the spiritual leader for the town. So now we are in between adventures. That ended the first level quest. We're in between adventures, and the PCs are going to be doing downtime. Now that is those are some rules I'm interested to try out. This is new to the this is not something that came out of Shadow of the Demon Lord. This is new to Shadow of the Weird Wizard. And so downtime activities allow PCs to actually improve their characters through training of some sort. So if I can find it here in the book, the downtime activities include things such as learning a new language, professional training. This is all page 18 of the Secrets of the Weird Wizard. Learning a new language, learning a new profession, discovering a new tradition, activity training, so characters can spend time training to perform activities related to one of their attributes. During the next quest, when the character gets a failure on a roll using the trained attribute, they can discard the result and roll again. A character that can use this training benefit once as a novice, twice as an expert, and 3 times as a master. Once the last use has been expended, the benefit's lost. And then retraining, so if the expert has a talent that they selected from their path, and they decide they want to trade it out for a different talent, they can do so by retraining. So that is something cool that I thought they could potentially do in between adventures. But the problem is that Two Forks is a tiny village, and there's not really anybody here that can train them to do anything. So this is their incentive to actually leave Two Forks and find a larger settlement. Another incentive is the NPC female that they found here. She has an uncle in Edgewood. Now Edgewood is over to the west, and it is a larger town where the PCs could actually purchase items and probably get training on on whatever it is that they want to train on. So this is an incentive for them to go there. Now, I'm not forcing them to go there. I've just kind of laid some breadcrumbs to lead them there. But they could decide that they want to travel to Four Towers. Okay, that's cool. If they want to go to Four Towers, that's fine. Or they could decide that they want to go to, one of these other towns. Maybe they want to go to Swords Point or Seahold or Briny Flats. No, Briny Flats is a swamp, it looks like. They don't want to go to Briny Flats. Maybe they want to go to whatever this town down here is. But anyway, they have the freedom to choose wherever they want to go. But of course, the closest option is Edgewood. And so they will most likely take up my breadcrumbs, but I'm not really sure. We will see how it goes. But at any rate, that will get them out of Two Forks, and that will get them into the Borderlands, which is, basically what I want them to do is go out and start exploring the Borderlands. And that is how they will get exposed to more of what is happening in the Borderlands that is going to require their assistance in order to rectify. And so that's where we're at. So that is my level 1 adventure, the quest, which was again based on One Bad Apple, very loosely. But at any rate, the next adventure is going to be again loosely based off of another quest, and this one is Friends in Need. Again, very loosely based off of that. So we will see how that goes. I'm in the process of building that quest up here in Foundry, and so I hope there will be lots of good times there as well. Anyway, the first quest went pretty well, and of course we're still trying to learn the system. There are a lot of similarities between this and Shadow of the Demon Lord. So the game system itself is not necessarily causing any problems or anything like that. We do have to look some things up. Like I was trying to look up rules for Surprise, there are no rules for surprise. We were trying to look up rules for charging. There are no rules for charging. So, things like that were kind of throwing us off. We had to clarify a few things. I had to go to the Discord channel to kind of clarify how, a couple of different rules were written. But those are some minor things. The bigger problem is, we're finding some bugs in the Foundry campaign, and so I had to report those and get those fixed. Also having a little trouble navigating the combat tracker. There was a bug with the initiative phase that was causing some problems. And just trying to get this to work smoothly is a little bit challenging. Just because the combat tracker is linear, so whoever is listed first is assumed to be going first. That's not how it is in either Shadow of the Demon Lord or Shadow of the Weird Wizard. PCs can choose when they go, I have to move things around, so it's a little bit clunky. Just trying to get used to that. So, but at any rate, that's how the first quest went. It took 4 sessions. I'm hoping the next quest won't take quite as long. I'm anticipating maybe 2 sessions, but we'll see. So, okay, I'll go ahead and wrap up this video here. So I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Hail to the Demon Lord. And, yeah, how do I turn this damn thing off?